Her parents sold her for being disabled, but the mountain man got a goddess. When parents who had no choice sold their girl because she was disabled, the tough mountain guy who took her in thought he was just being kind. But in just 5 days, he found out the amazing truth that would change both their lives forever. Hey there, my good buddy. This is Jasper Ashwood, your storyteller for Mountain Tales. Before we get going, be sure you hit subscribe and leave a comment down there saying where you're listening from. A big hug to you all, and I hope you like the story. In the rough wilds of the Colorado Rockies, where winter killed the weak and only the tough ones made it, stories told of mountain guys who lived way out from towns. These were guys made from rock and formed by being alone, their hearts as cold as the tops they called home. But sometimes even the most alone person meets something that warms up the cold around their heart. This is the story of that kind of meeting where kindness turned into love and being hurt changed into something nice. The old wagon bumped along the dangerous mountain road, its parts creaking under the load of worry and hidden shame. The wood wheels got stuck on sharp rocks and deep grooves made by lots of bad winters. Each bump reminded them of the mean deal that had got them to this faraway spot. Inside the tight wagon back, Sarah May held her old shawl with white fingers, her parents' mean words still loud in her ears like a death nail. "A crippled girl brings nothing but shame to our family name," her dad had said with cold sureness just 3 days before, his voice hurting her heart like a knife. "She's 19 years old and no guy will want her. We fed and kept her long enough with nothing to show for it. Better she does some job somewhere else than keeps using up our stuff." A mother had just nodded without saying a thing, her eyes already adding up the silver money that would lock her girl's future. Like Sarah May was nothing more than animals to be sold at the fair. They had given her away like broken stuff to a stranger who lived way out from towns, a deal that felt more like a goodbye forever than a fresh start. The memory of her dad's happy grin as he put the money in his pocket still hurt in her head, along with her mom's way of not even looking at her in those last times. The guy waiting for her to come was known only as Caleb Stone, a famous mountain liver who stayed in the wild tops where most people were scared to go. Stories about him went around the town, like quiet ghost stories. Some said he was an old soldier hurt by war. Others said he was hiding from a bad and rough past. But all said he was a guy who picked total alone time over being with people. The town folks talked about him with a mix of scare and honor, telling of a huge guy who could live through winters that would kill normal people, who could follow a hurt bear through a snowstorm, and who hadn't come to town for over 3 years. Her dad had said with fake niceness that Caleb needed help running his faraway home, someone who wouldn't complain about the hard alone time, super cold chill, or the never-ending quiet that made weaker people go crazy. Sarah May knew the hard truth behind those picked words. They wanted someone with no hope enough to take any end, no matter how sad or unsure, someone whose going away wouldn't be asked about or cried over. The road went down into a canyon with snow dust, around by big green trees that seemed to go forever up to the gray sky. Old pines and firs stood like quiet guards, their parts heavy with built-up snow from the night before's storm. The mountain air got thin and fresh, each breath seen as white puffs, while the far sound of chopping wood rang through the valley like a heartbeat in the wild. The noise told of people being there in this big empty, of someone getting ready for the bad winter that was already starting to take the high land. The wagon driver, a rough guy named Murphy, who hardly talked the whole trip, pulled his thick coat closer around his shoulders and gave worried looks at the getting dark sky. "This is where you're going, young lady," he grumbled, his voice hard to hear over the wind that had started to whistle through the canyon sides. "Storm's coming quick from the north. Best I head down the mountain before it gets bad." His not wanting to stay in this faraway spot was clear in every mark on his old face. Sarah May got down slow from the wagon back, her left ankle twisted from birth and never fixed right, making each step careful and shaky on the bumpy ground. The problem had been her always friend since kid time, a reason for never-ending shame and laughs from family and close people alike. She hated how new people always looked when she walked different, their eyes full of sorry, yuck, or weird wonder. But the big shape standing there, Caleb Stone himself, just watched with quiet focus, his look not judging or sorry. He stood high and strong-made, easy 6'' and 3" of hard muscle got from years of mountain life. His old face was edged by a thick dark beard with early white lines, and his deep eyes had the kind of smart that came only from living through hard times. His flannel shirt had bits of new wood dust and mountain tree, proof of the morning's work, while his hands, big, marked, and able, hung easy at his sides. This was a guy made by the wild itself, formed by alone time and made strong by staying alive. "You're the one Benjamin Crawford sent?" Caleb asked, his voice deep and steady, with the light way of talk from someone who had been years away from towns. Each word was picked careful, like talking had become a rare thing not to waste. Sarah May nodded slow, keeping her look down in the giving-in way that had been hit into her over the years. "Yes, sir, Sarah May Crawford," she said, her voice just over a whisper. Caleb put his chopping tool against a used chopping spot, the tool's handle shiny smooth from lots of hours of use. He looked at her face, not her clear problem, seeing the way she stood, guarding, ashamed, ready to say sorry for just being there. Her cheeks were red from the cold trip, her lips a bit blue from the mountain air, but her eyes, though tired and careful, still had an inside light that got his quick notice. There was something not broke in those deeps, something that all the mean in the world hadn't been able to put out. "No need for fancy talk up here," he said easy, his sound softer than she thought. "You look cold right to the bone. Come in where it's warm before you get sick bad." The ask was given without show, but with a nice that shocked her. The inside of his cabin was a big surprise after the bad cold out. Heat came from a great stone fire spot that took over one wall. Its bottom built from river stones got from the mountain waters. The spot smelled of wood smoke and pine leather and something hard to say guy like that told of a lone life, lived with reason. Even with its far away, the cabin was plain but super clean. Everything in its right spot, every top free of dust or mess. A one rocking chair sat near the fire bottom, its wood part worn smooth by use, with a handmade blanket put over its back in fancy patterns of deep blue and woods green. Shelves on the walls full with books whose names told of a guy more learned than his rough look might say. Books of poems, thinking, and nature facts, mixed with useful books on hunting, catching, and staying alive. A gun hung over the top, clean and kept good, while different tools of mountain life were put with army straight on the walls. Caleb moved with shocking smooth for such a big guy, pouring hot coffee from a pot that had been staying warm by the fire into a metal cup that showed the bumps and marks of long use. He put it in front of her with hands that, even with their clear strength, were shocking soft. "When did you last eat?" he asked, real worry clear in his voice. She shook her head slow, ashamed to say her dad's not caring on the trip. "Not since morning, sir. Not since morning." The fix came on its own, a life of being taught to show right respect to her betters. He pointed to an iron pot that hung over the flames, bubbling with what smelled like the best stew she had met in months. "Deer stew will be done soon. Rest yourself until then. You look like you haven't had a good meal in weeks." His hello wasn't fancy or pretty, but it wasn't mean or pushing away, a big difference to the way she was used to over the years. Still, Sarah May's heart beat fast with nerves as she sat in the new warm. She stayed unsure what this mountain guy really wanted from her, or if she had just changed one kind of hurt for another, maybe worse kind of work. The stories told about alone guys and no-help girls were not always good ones. When she finally found her voice, it shook a bit with the load of years of knowing bad words. "I can help, Mr. Stone. I know my slow ways make me less quick, but I can make food, fix clothes, and keep the cabin. I'm good with needle and string. I know plants for fixing and food, and I never say bad about hard work. My ankle may slow me a bit, but I never stop trying, no matter how hard the job gets. Caleb's old look got way softer as he heard her try hard to show her value. Didn't ask for reasons, he said quiet, sitting in the chair across from her with the careful moves of a guy aware of his size and strength. She started, then stopped, swallowing hard against the feeling that wanted to take her over. I just don't want you thinking I'm no good, she whispered, the words hard to hear over the cracking fire. He looked at her, then really looked with eyes that had seen too much hurt in his own life to push it away in another. Something changed in his old features, a soft that changed his whole face. I don't think that, he said quiet, his voice with a sureness that seemed to go right into her hurt heart. Don't let other people's mean. Words grow in your heart, Sarah May. They're like bad weeds, hard to pull once they stay, and they stop everything good that tries to grow. The fire cracked and popped between them, sending moving shadows on the cabin walls, and Sarah May blinked fast to hold back tears that wanted to fall. No one had talked to her with such real nice in years, not since her mom's death when she was 12, leaving her with a dad who saw her only as a load and to think of his own bad. The simple people way in Caleb's words broke something open in her chest, something that had been cold so long she forgot it was there. That night, after they had ate the good deer stew in shocking, easy quiet, Sarah May trying not to eat too fast even with her big hunger, Caleb watching her with those thinking eyes that seemed to see too much, he showed her to a small sleep room next to the main room. The spot was easy but clean, with a thin bed covered in covers that looked hand-done, a small table, and a window that looked east to the sun coming up. You can sleep here, he said, his voice nice quiet in the close spot. The top holds good against even the worst storms, and the walls are thick enough to keep out the cold. If you hear mountain cats at night, don't worry. They stay away from the firelight, and I'm an easy sleeper. He stopped, then added with surprise soft, if you need anything at all, just call. I'll hear you. Thank you, she said soft, the words with more thanks than such easy nice needed. He nodded once and stepped away, pulling the door part closed to give her alone, while leaving it open enough that she wouldn't feel stuck or alone. When his steps went away into the main room, Sarah May sat on the side of the easy bed, her fingers following the fancy sewing of the cover that was on it. The needlework was great, tiny, even marks in patterns that told of lots of hours of weight work. She thought who had made it, if it had been the work of the wife Caleb had lost, and felt a weird hurt of something that might have been mad for a woman she had never met. The cover wasn't fancy, like store-got goods, but it was warm and nice, and hers, at least for now, the first thing in years that had been given to her without rules or wants. Through small holes in the cabin walls where the fill had settled, she watched snow bits start to float past the window in the lamplight, each bit seen for just a bit before going into the dark out. The sight made her think of her dad's happy look when he had took money for her going away, the way he had counted the money twice to make sure he hadn't been fooled. You're lucky he'll take you, he had said with fake worry. A guy like that, living alone up there, he must be no hope to take on broken stuff. She wished she could feel thanks for this chance, but scare and not sure made any feel of easy cloudy. Morning came light and quiet across the big mountain tops, coloring the snowland in shades of white and pink. The nice of it took Sarah May's breath as she looked through the small window. She had never seen anything so great, so not touched by people mean or let down. Caleb was already out chopping wood when she came from her room, wrapped in her threadbare shawl that gave little guard against the mountain cold. She watched his strong beat moves as the sharp axe cut deep into old logs, each hit right and save, the end of years of dew and body train. His breath went up in white puffs with each out, and even with the cold, she could see that he had worked up a light wet from the hard. The stack of cut wood by him was already big, proof that he had been at work since before sunup. He saw her watching and gave a short nod to say hi. Did you sleep good? He asked, stopping his work to give her all his look. His worry seemed real, not just nice. "Yes," she said, though her voice sounded small and not sure in the big mountain air that seemed to eat sound. The truth was that she had slept better than she had in months, calmed by the warm and safe of the cabin. But saying such a thing felt somehow bad. "Good. There are jobs if you feel able," he said, setting the axe aside and wiping wet from his head with the back of his arm. "Water needs bring from the spring down the hill, and the goats need food. The chickens need care too, and there's fixing to do." He stopped, looking at her face. "But don't push too much. The high takes time to get used to." She waited a bit, not sure showing on her face. "I can do that," she said at last, though not sure colored her voice. He smiled a bit, and the look changed his strict face all. "Doing is all anyone can do up here," he said with what might have been fun. "The mountain doesn't care about our ideas or our slow ways. It just is, and we change, or we don't live." The morning went slow but steady, and Caleb found himself secret watching this surprise add to his alone world. He saw how she would not give up to her slow ways, even when her not-even walk made the rocky, ice-touch path to the spring dangerous and hard. The trip that would have took him 5 minutes needed near 15 for her, but she did it without say-bad, sure show in every careful step. She tripped once on a loose rock hid under the snow and almost dropped the heavy wood bucket, the ice water moving close to the top. For a bit she stood there, shaking from hard and cold, her ankle hurting with the known pain that had been her always friend since kid time. But instead of stop or call for help, she fixed her hold, made herself steady, and went on with the same quiet sure that had got her through 19 years of letdown and no. By noon, her hands were rough and hurt from the cold water and hard rope holds, and her back ached from the always bend needed to care for the animals. The goats had been not trust of her at first, as animals often were of new people, but her soft weight won them. She talked to them in soft whispers as she put out their food, treating them with the same nice she had always showed to things who, like her, were often seen as loads by those who had them. When Caleb came with an armful of new grass and said she rest for a bit, warm by the fire and maybe eat something, she shook her head with hard sure. "If I stop now, I might not find the power to go on," she said, her breath making white puffs in the cold air. "I need to show that I can do this, that I'm not just another load to carry." He stopped, looking at her face, the light skin red with cold and hard, the sure set of her mouth, the way she without think helped her weak ankle while not saying the pain. "You're sure? I'll give you that," he said, and there was real like in his voice, hard as a mountain goat. "So I've been told," she said, letting a shy smile go on her face for the first time since coming. "My mom used to say I had more want than think." The smile, not sure but real, moved something surprise in his chest. A warmth that had nothing to do with body easy, and all to do with the know that he hadn't seen such soft nice in way too long. There was something in her heart, something not broken clean that all the mean she had took hadn't been able to kill. That night, as mountain winds howled on the wood covers with a mad that told of winter's coming rule, Caleb sat near the work spot, fixing a broke door part with the weight skill of a guy who had learned to keep all in his alone world. The steady beat of his work, the careful smooth of metal, the right change of moving parts, gave a match to the storm mad out. Meanwhile, Sarah May mixed the night food with Do Easy, having said she'd do supper, even with her tired from the day's work. Firelight moved on her side as she worked, lighting the soft bone make that told of nice once loved before hard taught her to hide it. For the first time since her coming, Caleb found himself really seeing past the girl he had took in out of what he told himself was good duty. He saw something way more worth than easy thanks or even good do. He saw quiet strong that hadn't been broke by years of mean, care that was without mad even with every reason for it, and a nice that stayed even with the hard that had made her young life. The way she moved around his cook spot, learning where his things were without messing his careful order way. Told of someone who had spent her life changing to other people's spots, making herself use without making herself seen. Yet there was nothing servile in her way. She worked with honor, taking quiet pride in the easy jobs that others had taught her to see as proof of her slow ways. When she at last put the hot bowl before him, the smell coming from the easy stew was great. Somehow she had changed his basic stuff into something that really smelled good. She talked slow, like scared her ask might make mad. "Mr. Stone, can I ask why you said yes to take me?" "My dad said you needed help running this spot." But she moved hand loose around the clean cabin. "You seem real able to run on your own." Caleb looked up from his food, seeing the smart behind her ask. She had seen enough in one day to know that his give of work hadn't come from need. "Truth is, I wasn't sure what I needed when your dad's letter came," he said, putting down his spoon and giving her all his look. This cabin had got too quiet over the years. Maybe a guy can only talk with his own sound back for so long before he starts going mad, before he forgets there's a world past these mountains. He stopped, looking into the fire as thinks came on his old face. "My wife used to say that a house without talk was just empty, no matter how good built. She died 3 winters ago, and since then," he stopped, then looked back at Sarah May. "Since then, I've been living in a empty." Sarah May felt her breath stop at this surprised look into his past. She had thought about the girl touches in the cabin, the careful made covers, the plant spot that someone had cared with love, the way some corners had a empty that told of gone, not just alone. "I'm sorry for your lose," she said soft, meaning every word. She must have been very special. "She was," he said easy, "Mary Catherine. She was all good about this spot." He smiled light at the think. "She would have liked you, I think. She had no weight for people who judge others by their spots, not their inside." Sarah May smiled light, feeling a warm go through her chest that had nothing to do with the fire. "Then maybe we both needed somewhere to fit," she said quiet, the words with more hope than she had dared to feel in years. He didn't answer right away, just nodded slow and thinking, like checking the truth of her words against his own heart. "Maybe we did," he said at last. Out, snow kept falling with the no-stop go of a mountain winter, covering their small spot of the world in clean white. In, by the bright fire that pushed back the dark, 2 hurt hearts, one broke by mean, one alone by sad, started finding that warm could be between 2 people who had both forgot what it felt like to be wanted. The snowstorm came 4 days later with the wild mad of nature let go, coming down from the high tops like a live thing made of ice, wind, and wild rough. It was the kind of storm that mountain people scared most. A white bad that could cover a guy alive, freeze him hard before he could take 10 steps from his door and wipe all signs of people from the land. The green trees bent under its no-stop hit, their big parts creaking under the load of pushing snow, while the world past the cabin went away all into white nothing. In Caleb Stone's safe spot, the fire never went out, cared always by hands that knew the diff between life and death in such weather. The cabin creaked and groaned under the storm's hit, but the thick wood sides and strong make held strong against nature's mad, and neither did Sarah May's heart give in the face of this wild test. She had been there 5 days now, 5 quiet days that had felt more mean and real than most years of her before life. The beat of mountain life had started to feel normal to her, getting up before light, carrying the animals, keeping the cabin, making food from easy stuff that somehow tasted better than any big meal she thought from her old life. She still moved careful, guarding her weak ankle from the not-even ground and ice tops. But Caleb never made note to her slow ways or made her feel like a load. Sometimes she caught him watching her from the side of his eye when he thought she didn't know, like a guy trying to fix a hard puzzle he couldn't quite get. There was something in his look that she had never seen before. Not sorry, not judge, not the adding up check of her use that she had got used to. Instead, there was something that might have been wonder, like he was seeing something in her that she herself didn't know was there. Sarah May wasn't what he had thought when he'd said yes to take in Benjamin Crawford's hurt girl. She wasn't no help or mad or broke in the way he had thought. She held her quiet like something worth not bad, and her soft seemed to come from real nice, not just giving in. He had found her out twice already in the early morning times, brushing snow from the goat spot with Wait Sure, her dark hair with white snow bits like she had been born to this winter wild, not thrown out into it. There was something almost magic about the way she moved through his world, bringing life to spots that had been dead for too long. She hummed while she worked, soft, no-word songs that seemed to come from some deep spot of happy that all her hurt hadn't been able to empty. The sound was like music to his ears, a think that joy could be even in the hardest spots, and he found himself stopping in his own work just to hear. That morning he found her by the fire bottom down next to a basket of fixed clothes. Her hands moved fast and sure. "You don't need to fix all," he said, putting down an arm of cut logs. She looked up, shocked. "Not busy hands make me worry." Caleb laughed, a sound that shocked even him. "I've seen that about you." She smiled soft and went back to her work. The firelight went on her face, calm and thinking, edged by a loose bit that had got out her hair tie. Caleb looked away before she caught him looking. He hadn't known how empty his world had got until she had came in it. By midday, the wind yelled hard enough to shake the whole build. Caleb stood at the window, looking into the gray mix of pushing snow. "That's the kind of storm that takes travelers," he said, dark. Sarah May stopped in her sewing. "Has it always been this alone up here?" He turned from the glass. "It's not alone if you stop wanting to hear another people's voice." She looked into the flames. "That sounds real lonely." He waited, then breathed deep. Maybe it has been. The quiet went between them, soft, but not bad. Out the world went away under endless white. In, a diff kind of quiet came, warmer and almost soft. That night, after their easy supper, Caleb poured a small bit of drink, a rare treat he saved for the coldest nights. He waited before giving her a cup, too. For the cold, he said. She took it careful, like it was a worth gift too good for her rough hands. "I've never tasted this before," she said. "It burns," he warned soft. She drank careful, coughed right away, and Caleb couldn't stop the laugh that came. She looked up with water eyes, her lips between a bad face and a grin. "That's bad," she said, out of breath. "It's a got taste," he said, smiling big. She laughed back, and for one short, easy break, the storm out seemed no power to touch them. Later, as the wind hit harder on the top, Caleb lit a more light and started checking the cabin's joints for cold air. Sarah May watched him wonder. "Do you ever go to the town?" "Only when must," he said, pushing soft stuff into a hole between the logs. She waited. "Do the town people know you there?" "They know of me," he fixed. "That's diff," she saw smart. He stopped, catching her, watching him with those real ask eyes. "You ask lots." She read with shame. "I just want to get the guy I'm living with." That got another quiet smile from him. "Fair enough, though there's not much worth getting. I'm just a guy who picked a loan." "Maybe not," she said low, "but I think there's more deep than you show." Caleb looked at her for a long time, really looked at her. The light's shine caught the light mark along her hair, part hid by dark bits. He knew she had seen his strong look and quick looked away. The next morning the storm had gone, leaving the world changed under clean white quiet. The pines stood heavy with snow, and the air shined with bitter cold. Caleb put saddle on his horse and got his tools. "Need to check the edge fence before it falls under the load." He told her, "Stay near the fire. Don't go out. It's easy to lose way in this light." She nodded, watching him go away into the trees, her breath cloud the glass. Hours went slow. The sun started to go down, and still he hadn't come back. Worry ate at her chest like a live thing. When a dark shape at last came through the green trees, moving slow and hard, she took her shawl and ran out, the cold air burning her lungs. "Caleb!" she called out urgently. He turned to her voice, his hat with ice. "You shouldn't be out here in this cold." But she didn't stop until she got to him and saw the blood on his leather hand cover. "It's nothing bad," he said, hurt a bit. "Just caught my hand on sharp wire." "You're bleeding," she whispered, holding his arm strong. He tried to pull away, but she held with surprise strong. "Sit down," she said, her sound sharper and more boss than he'd ever heard. He did, half from shock at her sudden boss. She made the fire higher, got clean cloth, and started cleaning the hurt with soft right. Her fingers shook a bit, but her touch stayed careful and sure. Caleb watched her in quiet. The focus in her look, the small shake of her dark eye hairs, the way she bit her low lip when new blood came. "You've done this before," he said quiet. She nodded once. "My mom taught me fixing before she—" She stopped herself, her eyes moving with old pain. He didn't push for more. When she done wrapping his hand with good care, she sat back, breathing light from the hard. He looked at the neat right cover. "You're good at this," he saw. She moved shoulder easy. "I've had due caring for people who hard show thanks." Caleb faced bad at the sad in her voice. "Then I'll be the first to thank you, right?" "Thank you, Sarah May." Her lips opened like she didn't know how to answer such real thanks. "You're welcome," she whispered at last. That night, the mountain air was still and cold again. But something in the cabin felt way closer, like the space between them had somehow less. Caleb watched her by the firelight, fixing his torn work hand cover now. "You've been walking bad more today," he said soft. "It hurts when the cold goes deep," she said without shame. "It's nothing new." He waited careful. "Did your parents ever tell you what made it?" Her hands stopped all. For a long time, she didn't answer. Then she said quiet, "They said it was my fault for being no care as a kid." Caleb faced bad deep. "And do you believe that?" Her voice broke a bit. "I used to believe all they told me." He wanted to say something, anything, to take away the years that had taught her to take blame for things past her power. But words seemed not enough. So instead, he quiet put another wood on the fire and said, "You should rest now. Tomorrow we'll get water together. I'll make sure the path is safe." She nodded, smiling with quiet thanks. "You don't have to do that." "I want to," he said easy. And when she looked up, he was already turned to the window, watching the pines move under bright moonlight. A guy who had lived too long alone, now knowing he no longer wanted to be alone. The next morning came fresh and clear, sunlight coming weak through a sky still heavy with winter's say. Caleb Stone stood by the barn door, his breath going up in white puffs, while Sarah May helped put food into the feed spot for his horse. She moved careful, guarding her weak ankle, but her face stayed calm and peaceful. Caleb had seen that kind of still before. It wasn't happy. It was learned way her quiet got from years of being not seen and pushed away. When she stood straight, brushing snow from her wool shawl, he said, "You don't need to work so always. The animals will live a day or two without such care." She smiled light. "Being busy keeps me from thinking on things." He moved head wonder. "Thinking on what?" Her eyes went to the far tops where morning light slow woke the lines about how I came to be here. About why my parents wanted to get rid of me so fast. I keep thinking if it was real just because of my ankle. Caleb's mouth tight with held mad. He stepped closer. "Guys like them don't need real reasons to be mean. Sometimes they just need someone weak to make themselves feel strong." She met his eyes then, and there was something easy break in her look, a ask she didn't dare say. But she didn't look away, and neither did he. That afternoon, Caleb took her to get water from the mountain spring. The snow had soft, just enough to make walking can, though every step still loud under their boots. The top stood like old guards, cold and great. Sarah May's breathing got hard after a while, and Caleb slowed his walk nice. "Let me carry the bucket," he gave, reaching for it. "I can do it myself," she answered hard. He smiled warm. "I know you can. That doesn't mean you have to. When she gave it over, her wool cover fingers touched his light. Short touch, but enough to send surprise warm through the cold air. At the spring, Caleb broke through the thin ice with his axe handle, letting the dark, clear water move up from below. Sarah May down by him to fill their holder. He saw her slight use as she bent down. "Does it hurt?" he asked, soft. "Only a little," she said, making a brave smile. Caleb waited, thinking. "Sarah May, how long have you been like this?" She froze all. The ask seemed to hang stopped in the cold air between them. Then slow, careful, she talked. "Since I was 9 years old, my parents said I fell from the Hoft because I was being no care." She swallowed hard, but that's not what real happened. Caleb turned to her full. The wind whispered through the pine parts, but neither of them moved. She kept her look fixed on the dark water. "My dad was drinking mad. He pushed me when I tried to stop him from hitting our dog. I fell hard. The bone never set right." Her voice broke on the last words, and she went all still, like ashamed for saying the truth out. Caleb's hand tight around the axe handle, his fingers white with held mad. "Does he still live in the town?" he asked, his voice low and bad. She nodded light. "Yes, but please don't look for him. I just want to forget all." Caleb breathed out slow, pushing the mad down deep where it couldn't eat him. He wasn't a guy given to lots words, but what he said next came from somewhere real and true. "You're not broken, Sarah May. He just made you think you were." She looked up then, eyes wide and shining with not-fall tears. The way he said it, steady, sure, no shake, made her chest hurt with hope she'd forgot how to feel. When they stood to go, Caleb reached out without think and put his hand soft at her back, steady her as she went the not-even ground. She didn't pull away. That night, a thin fog came down from the mountaintops, turning the world silver under bright moonlight. In the cabin, the fire glowed warm and hello. Sarah May was mixing a pot of bunny stew when Caleb came in, shaking new snow from his wide shoulders. "Something smells great," he said, rubbing his hands together for warmth. "I found some dry plants you had put near the window," she said. "They make the soup taste like something special." Caleb laughed, thanks. "That's a small wonder up here." She put him a big bowl, watching as he sat in his chair near the fire bottom. When he tasted it, his eye lines went up with shock. "You're right. This is real something great." Sarah May sat across from him, watching the flames move like spell. "You built this whole spot yourself, didn't you?" He nodded with quiet pride. "Every single wood." She followed the edge of her bowl with one finger. "Why?" Caleb looked into the fire for a long, thinking time before answering. "After my wife went away, I needed something that didn't make me think of all I'd lost. This land was empty and quiet. I thought maybe I could build a life here that made sense again." Sarah May's voice soft with get. "Did it work?" He shook his head slow. "Not until late." Her breath stopped loud. For a time, neither talked. The fire broke and cracked. Snow fell from the top out with a soft bump. Then she said, quiet, "You shouldn't say things you don't mean, Caleb." He met her look straight. "I don't waste words I don't mean." Her cheeks red-pink with feeling. She lowered her eyes, but the side of her mouth went up just a bit. The next day brought not thought visitors. Caleb had gone to check his catch lines near the east line when he saw 3 guys on horse going up to his cabin, his inside tight with right-away tired. He knew one of them right. Benjamin Crawford, her dad. The older guy's coat was nice enough for town group, but his look was mean and adding. The second guy was a new wearing a helper's mark with a office look paper sticking from his coat pocket. Caleb didn't talk until they got to his open. "You've gone a big way," he said even. Benjamin got down from his horse, boots loud in the snow. "That girl hiding in your cabin is mine. You got her fair, didn't you? Deal said she was to work you. You've changed mind? Fine, I'll take her back." Caleb's eyes hard like metal. "She doesn't belong to anyone." The guy laughed bad. "You think she told you truth? She's no use. Broke stuff, can't walk right, can't keep with real work. Always been nothing but a load. Thought maybe some no-hope mountain alone might feel sorry on hurt by." Caleb took a scare step front, his voice quiet but sharp cut. "Watch your words very careful. The helper, clear not easy, cleared his neck worry. Mr. Stone, I was to give this office note. Seems it was late by the storm. He gave the paper quick, then back away careful. Caleb ripped open the cover with hard-held mad. In was a one-page office stop note. The deal with Sarah Mae Crawford had been said not legal and no. Benjamin Crawford had no law power over her at all. Caleb's hold tight on the paper as he looked up with kill calm. You came here on lies, Benjamin grinned big head. Paper doesn't change real, boy. She still broke stuff that no one wants. That was the last clear thing he said before Caleb's hand hit his mouth. The guy went flat into the snow like a broke toy. Caleb stood over him, chest moving with held mad. You're done hurting her. Come near her again, and I'll put you in the same ground you think you own. Benjamin got up fast, mad, twisting his face into something bad and sad. But one look at Caleb's eyes, cold, kill, serious, stopped him all. He turned and tripped to his horse like a hit dog. Caleb didn't move until all three guys went away down the mountain road. When he came back to the cabin, Sarah Mae was standing by the door, her face light as winter moonlight. I saw them through the window, she whispered. He came for me, didn't he? Caleb nodded slow, giving her the law paper. You're free now, Sarah Mae, all free. He can never touch you again. She looked at the paper with shaking hands, reading the words that said her free. For the first time in her life, the words, "You are not owned," had real touch mean. She looked up at Caleb, her voice shaking with feeling. I shouldn't have risk fight for me. He shook his head strong. I didn't risk anything I wasn't willed to lose, her eyes full with tears. But she smiled, a small, brave smile that lit the room brighter than the fire ever could. Out the mountain stood in forever quiet. In, something new and worth started to grow. Something that no storm, no mean, no lie could ever kill. The rest of winter stayed longer than normal that year, though Caleb and Sarah Mae hard saw its long stay. Days went in easy beat, food animals, cut wood, fix lines bent by heavy snow. The cabin, once strict and alone, now held warm that came not just from the fire bottom, but from shared talks, quiet laughs, and something deeper that neither dared to name yet. Sometimes, when Caleb caught Sarah Mae humming soft as she cleaned the wood floors or sewed a torn cloth, he found himself stopping in his work, hearing close, a soft smile touch his old lips. There was music in that sound, easy break, hope, full alive, and Sarah Mae, though still walking with her known limp, started holding herself with newfound honor. Her shoulders were no longer guard-hunched. Her eyes met his straight when they talked. The scare that had once lived in her seemed to melt away slow, like snow going from sun-warm fields. One morning, as the first real signs of spring touched the mountain air, Caleb went out early to the high line. He stood watching the low spot, waters breaking free from ice, the first lines of green showing along the slopes. When he turned, Sarah Mae was there behind him, wrapped in his old wool coat, her dark hair moving wild in the mountain wind. You should have called, he said soft, walking to her. The ground is still bad. I'm tired of staying by the fire bottom, she said, her voice soft but sure. I wanted to see what you see every morning. He smiled light. And what do you see? She looked around at the moving tops, the up sun, the cabin far low in the low spot. Then she looked straight at him. Free, she said easy. Caleb's chest tight surprise. He hadn't thought that one word to hit him so deep. You are free now, he said low. Real and all. Sarah Mae nodded, her eyes shining with feeling. Yes, but free is a weird thing, Caleb. You think it means running from all until you find someone who makes you want to stay. For a long time, neither talked. The wind carried the soft smell of tree and far wild flowers. And far up a bird cried against the morning sky. Caleb took a step closer. Sarah Mae, when you first came here, I thought luck had made a bad wrong. The truth is you helped me. You brought life back into this spot. She lowered her look easy. You gave me a chance when no one else would. No, he said, his voice low and all steady. You took that chance yourself. You fought for it every single day. Don't ever forget that. Her neck tight with feeling. Then why do you still look at me like I might break? Caleb waited, then answered with all true. Because I've already lost one person I cared deep about. I'm not sure I could live it happen again. Sarah May reached out then, wait but sure, and touched his callous hand. I'm not her, Caleb, and I'm not broke anymore, not the way I used to be. He looked down at their joined hands, rough and work-hurt from mountain life, yet fit together, perfect. Then he looked up, meeting her steady, tear-bright eyes. Something not said went between them, a get quiet and full. That spring came with big quick. The land woke from its long winter sleep, and the cabin's left garden bloomed for the first time in years. Sarah May put neat lines of beans and wildflowers down careful in the soft dirt, while Caleb made a new line and fixed the old deck. Sometimes he would stop mid-hit swing and just watch her. The sun in her hair, the way she laughed when a wonder goat went too close to her clothes. The woman who had came with nothing now filled every spot of his home with live life. One night after their easy supper, Caleb sat by the fire, sharp his hunt knife with dew moves. Sarah May was near the window, brushing her long hair by lamplight. The gold glow caught her side. Soft, happy, nice in a way that time and pain couldn't less. Caleb, she said quiet, putting the brush aside, do you ever think about what comes next? He looked up from his work. You mean after spring? She smiled light. After all, after me work here short, after you fix this top another lot's times? Caleb put the knife down careful. Sarah May, this isn't just my spot anymore. It's ours if you want it to be. Her breath stopped loud. Ours? He stood and moved closer, his boots creaking soft on the wood floor. You've already built half of it with your own hands. You made it home again. She shook her head, tears shining. Caleb, I don't know what I could give you. I can't say a perfect life. He stopped soft but strong. I don't need perfect. I just need real. I need you. For the first time, Sarah May didn't hold back or wait. She stepped into his arms, her cheek rest on his chest, hearing his steady heart beat. He wrapped her close, breathing in the light smell of tree and wild flowers, and something that was all her. They stayed that way for a long time. Two hearts once lost and thrown, now found in each other. Weeks later, an office letter came by horse. It had the area mark again, but this time the word was short and last. Benjamin Crawford had left the land forever. No bad file, no comeback thought. Caleb read it out careful. Sarah May heard in quiet, then folded the paper on purpose and put it in the fire. He's gone, she whispered, watching it turn to dust. Just like that. Caleb watched the paper burn all. Then that's the end of him, he said with last. And the true start of you? She looked up at him, her eyes showing the moving firelight. Maybe the start of us, Caleb smiled, the kind of quiet, deep smile that only comes after years of alone finally end. Yes, he said soft, the start of us. Summer came with great lots. The mountain wild flowers bloomed in great shows. The water sang with new life and laughs rang often through their low spot. Sarah May's limp had got better lots with time and soft move, so much that one morning Caleb found her walking down the hillside with a basket of new berries, steady and sure foot. Look at you, he called out, smile with proud. You're walking better than I do these days, she laughed, a clear, bright sound like mountain water over stones. Maybe because you still limp when storms are coming. He laughed, shaking his head in wonder. I suppose we both carry old hurts that will never all go. Maybe that's perfect, all right, she said, giving him the berry basket. Maybe they think us how far we've gone. Caleb took her hand as they walked back to their cabin together. The night sun colored the sky bright gold, and near the stream said like a soft lullaby. When they got to the deck, he stopped, turning to face her all. You know, Sarah May, when you first came here, I thought fate had made a bad wrong. She moved head wonder, and now he smiled soft, his voice full with wonder. Now I know it brought you at just the right time. Her heart grew at his words. She leaned closer, whisper. Then I'm thanks I was lost long enough to find you. He brushed a bit of hair from her face, his voice low and soft. "No, Sarah May, you came just when I needed you most." And as the sun went away behind the big mountains that had stood as forever guards over this land for Lot's times, they stood together in the gold quiet that seemed to hold all the say of tomorrow and all the fix of yesterday. Two hearts the world had thrown away and said no worth, now building something stronger than sorry, deeper than pain, more last than the hard judges of those who had never known true hard. Something whole, something true, something forever that would last longer than the mountains themselves. In this far spot of the wild, where town-mean rules had no power, and only the true truths of live and real people link mattered, they had found what both had thought lost forever. Love had come to them not in the big moves of story tales or the hot says of love books, but in quiet times of get, in shared work and whisper talks by firelight. In the slow, know that broke things could be made nice again when done with lots care and no rules take. Their story would never be wrote in history books or happy in town spots, but it would live on in the way they looked at each other across their easy table, in the laughs that rang through their low spot, in the kids who would one day play in the garden Sarah May had put with her own marked but able hands. They had showed that the best treasures are often found in the most not likely spots, and that sometimes the people others throw as no worth are real the most worth hearts of all. As the sun set behind the old tops that had seen lots people's stories play out across the times, Caleb and Sarah May stood side by side, living proof that love doesn't always come in perfect shape, wrapped in pretty boxes with neat ties. Sometimes it limps. Sometimes it has the seam marks of old hurts. Sometimes it comes like kind or no hope, but it still finds its way home to where it fits, led by the no-stop pull of two hearts that know their perfect match against all chance and people thinks. The mountain had been their matchmake, the wild their church, and their own marks their shared say to the wonder-fix power of real take and no rules care. In picking to see past top not perfect to the God spark that lives in every people heart, they had found that the biggest disable of all is the no able to know the born worth in others. A blind that had hit Sarah May's family, but would never again dark her world. If this story touched your heart, write the word love in the comments. Let me know you were here until the very last word. Thank you for listening with your whole heart. And this was only the beginning. The next story will surprise you. Click on the video appearing on your screen and get ready to feel even more moved.